I was an analyst, a senior analyst. I was a manager and then moved into senior manager and then ultimately director. And so through that career progression, I was like, I love it, but I'm starting to feel like I'm leaving my general accounting kind of skill set behind.
Right.
And I was like, I want to be able to continue to move forward. And I don't want all of my experience to just be in the compliance function.
Right.
I want it to be on the operations side of accounting, which is general ledger.
Welcome to Beyond the Ledger, real conversations with people driving business forward. I'm Troy Ashby, CPA and host. Each episode, we unpack stories, challenges, and insights from today's top accounting and finance leaders. This podcast is brought to you by my friends over at MarketScale. Welcome to the Beyond the Ledger podcast. Today's guest, I've got Shanice Scott, Director of Accounting from J.Hilburn, with over 2 decades of accounting experience, a master's and bachelor's in accounting from UT, and a great career that includes a pivot that I'm sure we're going to dig into. Welcome, Shanice.
Thank you so much, Troy, for having me.
Yes, I can't believe it. We have known each other now for
over
it has
2 decades.
Almost been 25 years. That is.
Oh gosh, that makes me sound old, Troy.
We met when we were 5.
Oh, okay. I
Right?
like that. I like that. You're right. You're right.
Well, thanks for coming in. I can't wait for you to share your story today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
You've had an amazing career, but let's rewind a little bit. You and your family are massive, like a big UT family. So
that is true.
How did that happen?
I'm so glad to share this. We are Longhorns for life. Longhorns out there, hook 'em. So my dad was the fire starter, right? He graduated back in 75 from UT Austin. He was the trendsetter for our family. He was in the business school, graduated with his management degree. And so our family just grew up loving Longhorns, always visiting UT, watching UT football. And so I knew when I was looking at schools where I wanted to go. I wanted to go to UT. And I applied to UT, and I applied to A&M.
Oh,
no.
Okay. What'd that think?
And I was like, no, that was my backup plan. But UT, I had a great opportunity, a full ride scholarship, and that's where I went.
That's awesome.
And now my son is actually 3rd generation in our family to attend UT.
Oh, is he following down this
No,
business?
He said, Mom, I do not want a 9 to 5.
Okay.
And I was like, son, I don't work 9 to 5.
All right.
So he is working through the communication school, radio, television, film is his major.
So Dad was in the business school. You were obviously in the business
Yes.
school. You had mentioned earlier you have a family creed or something that you guys have been living by.
Yeah, for me, one of the things that I live by is faith, family, and finance. Those are the tenets of my life. Those are my value system, the way that I try to, every space that I enter, those are the things that I really try to uphold and hold to. And that has been a guiding force for my life.
It's so important to kind of have that foundation.
Yeah, that is my anchor for sure.
Yeah. Well, before we dig into this amazing career that I can't wait for, there's so many people that are going to be able to learn from what you've done and accomplished. I guess let's talk about something that people can't see on a resume or on LinkedIn.
What you can't see is that I really love to sing. You wouldn't think that being in such a very analytical job, accounting background, but I love to sing. So that's my outlet. I'm very active in my ministry, Newbury Christian Center. I'm on the praise and worship team. So I'm a part of the Rah group, the group that encourages people when they're coming in the door, just to fill you with, joy and love when you're in service. So I do a lot of community work. So yeah, that's really what you can't see when you look at my resume.
Let's double click on this praise and worship thing. Is this every Sunday? Or
most of the time.
Yes, you're up on stage.
Most of the time. And I it's so funny because I took about a 7-year break.
Okay.
And I've just rejoined back in February, and I'm loving every minute of
I
it.
feel like this is a big left brain, right brain thing.
That's
because
true.
Accountant and music.
That's true.
Pretty rare.
They don't really go together, but it's so funny because even at the company that I know we'll talk about that I'm at, they have a talent show every year, and I actually have participated 2 times since I've been here. Like I started December 18th, and I was on stage, I think in January, on stage in January. So I was like, oh my gosh, I get to use both sides of my brain here.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you opened the door. Let's talk a little bit about J.Hilburn and the director of accounting there and what all's going on at J.Hilburn.
Sure. J.Hilburn has been a whirlwind for me. I started December 2023. I can't believe it's already been 20 months, and I feel like the company has been through a lot of change. I've had a few bosses. And so it's really been a learning opportunity for me. And like you said, it was a big pivot for me from my previous role. I was a director of financial reporting, moved into a director of accounting. And that was a great pivot. I knew that I had the foundation of accounting, the fundamentals, but actually executing that in a role with a team and a new company, that was definitely a challenge. And I knew it was going to be a challenge, but I wasn't prepared for the level of challenge that it was going to bring me. And I've been able to successfully come through it.
You skipped over something that I think is what people are really going to learn about, because I have this conversation a lot. And whether it's be somebody that stayed in public accounting, which, by the way, I think we buried that lead. You did start at EY.
I did. I started at EY. I was there for 4 years.
Yeah. So, whether you stay too long or longer in public accounting or move into the financial reporting that you did.
Yes.
And then decide maybe reporting is not for me.
Sure.
So talk about that pivot, because, I know it was challenging. I know it's challenging for a lot of people, but how'd you navigate it, and what was the process like?
Well, first, let me say I love financial reporting. That is where I've spent the majority of my career. And even when I did a small pivot, back when I was at Brinker, I was the lead supervisor in the franchise accounting group. That was a pivot to more of a general ledger space. And I did that for about 4 years. And I was like, I'm ready to go back to my first love, just financial reporting. And so I still had some runway with financial reporting. I was an analyst, a senior analyst. I was a manager, and then moved into senior manager, and then ultimately director. And so through that career progression, I was like, I love it, but I'm starting to feel like I'm leaving my general accounting kind of skill set behind.
Right.
And I was like, I want to be able to continue to move forward. And I don't want all of my experience to just be in the compliance function.
Right.
I want it to be on the operations side of accounting, which is general ledger. And so this opportunity to be at J.Hilburn came along from a previous contact. And so I was grateful for that open door, and I was able to walk through it, which you shared with me was difficult to do at my level. Even at the manager level, it's really hard to pivot from financial reporting to GL because it requires two different skill sets.
Right. Yeah.
Right. It's more of a compliance function. I'm working with press releases and 10Ks and annual reporting for Securities Exchange Commission compliance, but you're on during the day-to-day transactions, operational work when you're in general ledger. And making that transition, it was a struggle. It was a challenge for me.
Yeah, and so let's talk about that a little bit more, because we talked about it back then. And I talk to people about it all the time, because not only are you highly technical, very intelligent,
Absolutely.
You've got your CPA, you spent time in Big Four, and sometimes what happens is your pay has hit a level where to pivot into GL sometimes either is a lateral or a step back. Paul Abdul, 2 steps forward and 1 step back. But sometimes that's what it takes if you want to get out of reporting. So what was that experience like for you? It sounds like a connection was the best part.
Definitely. It was during my time at Michaels. We were going through a major change with the company, moving from public to private. And I had the great opportunity to work with cross-departmentally with finance, with legal, with IT, with our accounting department. And so one of the gentlemen that was there, he was the VP of finance. He ultimately moved over to J.Hilburn, and he was there. And I actually didn't know he was there until the person that was assisting me with the job told me he was there. So he wasn't even the initial contact. He was like a surprise.
Right.
So it was just a random connection on LinkedIn. The opportunity looked great. It looked like it was a very interesting company. And then come to find out, it was a recruiter that I had worked with at Michaels.
Oh, wow.
He was working with J.Hilburn, and he told me, hey, do you know the CFO? And I was like, you know what? I actually worked with him on the IPO transaction for Michaels. And so that was an open door for me that I didn't even know was there. So
that's awesome.
Grateful to him.
And it's a testament to relationships,
Absolutely,
right?
I agree.
Managing those relationships and letting you get that foot in the door. But Talk about those first few months, stepping into, you can do it, but it's still a change.
Sure.
Big adjustment.
And I had shared that with him during the interview process. I was like, this is a pivot for me. I'm so grateful for the opportunity, and I want to do my very best because you opened this door for me. So first couple of months, I was like, ooh, I'm really enjoying the change, because in financial reporting, it's go, go, go. It's the quarterly ups and downs. It's the crunch time, getting through, pressing the button for the press release and the 10Q, 10K. So I didn't have I still was deadline oriented, right? Because you have to do close, but it's just a different process. You're going through your day-to-day operational transactions leading up to your monthly reporting versus where you have this really small kind of reporting window with financial reporting. So it was good. I enjoyed kind of getting into my cadence, learning my team, really trying to figure out the details of the everyday transaction. So it was good. It was definitely a pivot for me.
Yeah. I don't know if people caught it, but there was an acceleration period. You kind of went from individual contributor really fast in your career to leading a team. Also a big change for people.
That is definitely a big change.
Let's talk about that.
Glad you brought that up. I want to say I struggled when I moved from individual contributor to supervisor when I was at Brinker, because it is a pivot. You do have to change your mindset because you're not only responsible for your own individual work, but now I have to consider, how do I manage my team members' work along with getting the things done that I need to get done? And so I still kind of moved into the supervisor role with an individual contributor mindset. And so it really took one of my leaders to say, hey, you're going to have to change and pivot how you interact with your team so that they feel like you're what is the word I'm looking for? You're really involved in their day to day. And so I was like, okay, I have to not so much focus on my work, but I still have to focus on it, right? But I still have to make sure that my team feels cared for. They feel part of the team. They feel like we're still moving with the shared goals. So,
yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit, because how leaders make such an important part of company growth.
Sure.
Retention, you've got to attract them, but
Sure.
Retention is a big deal. So what do you do different as a leader? How are you making sure that your team grows and stays?
Sure. Well, one of the things that recently I've been able to kind of come into the knowledge of is my why. Like, what is my why? And when I look back over my career, I think my superpower is the fact that I want people, when they leave an interaction with me, I want them to know that they are cared for. And so I really think that one of my retention strategies is making sure that not only do I care about the work that you're doing, right, to get the job done, I care about you as a person. I want to make sure that you're okay. How are you doing so that you can bring your full self to work and be successful? But if you're not feeling okay, if you're feeling less than, if you're not feeling seen or heard, then you don't bring your best self to work every day. And so I really want to make sure that my team, when they interact with me, they feel cared for. So we celebrate birthdays. I want to, if you have a new apartment or a new home, I want to celebrate your wins. And I think that is really shown through in the teams that I've built.
Yeah, I bet they can feel that, because I can tell it's so genuine. It's not fake. You believe that.
And it's so funny because we just went through a workshop, shout out to Simon Sinek Group. And so we were developing our whys. And one of the ways that you do that is by sharing stories. And the other person tells you your themes, like what are the themes that you hear from the 3 or 4 stories that I've shared. And one of the things that came out from the other person was, you care. I see how much you care about your team, and it shows. It shows in your day-to-day interactions.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thanks for sharing, because that is something that people talk about all the time. It's hard to find them, but then how do you keep them?
Sure.
People are out there all the time trying to make sure that they're finding the good people too. Before I let you go, and this has been amazing, I always ask people, what is one thing that was challenging when you came up? And I used to like to say 5 years ago, but one thing that has made you who you are was a challenge you had to overcome.
Absolutely. The first thing that comes to mind is my journey to becoming a CPA. So I went to UT, as you know, and UT has a great program where I went through, kind of similar to a Becker, but we have our own UT CPA review course. And so I went through that. took my first exam, and lo and behold, I didn't pass. So I was shook to my core, right? And I was like, I've gone through the process. And I want to be honest with you. I've just only really been able to talk about this publicly with friends and family since the last probably 5 years.
I told you, I've known you for 25 and I had no idea this was a struggle.
I didn't talk about it because I felt like, I wasn't good enough. Let me be honest. And so going through the CPA and failing the first time, I was like, man, is this really what I want to do?
Yeah.
It really made me reevaluate whether or not this was something that I wanted to continue, or if my route or if my purpose was going to be elsewhere. If CPA was not part of my purpose. And so I hunkered down, went back to my tenants, faith, family, finance. And I was like, okay, I think I have the strength to take the test again. Lo and behold, I was starting my career at Ernst & Young, took the test again, no bueno. So still was not able to get to the 75 for all 4 parts. And so that third time I was like, okay, I think I'm ready. I'm going to do it again. And so at that time it was paper. So if you passed 2 parts, you could move on to just take those 2 parts that you had left. So third time I passed 2 and I still had 2 more to go. So I was like, okay, we got this. So fourth time, took those last 2 parts. One of my exams I passed. The other, guess what I got? The markers of 75. I got a 74.
They should never do that. 74 is just cruel.
74. So I cried and cried, right? And so I was like, okay, we can do this one more time. I got a 90 on that last test.
Good for you.
And so I say all of that to say the CPA has been a part of my journey, but it is definitely a reason why I don't want to do anything to lose it.
Yeah.
And so it really propels me to be integral in the work that I do. I want to do things right. I want to uphold the ethics of the CPA profession, the accounting profession. And so it is definitely one of my anchors for finance, because I want to make sure that I don't do anything to jeopardize that journey of attaining that CPA.
So many of the people that I talked to today, and you probably read all the stats, accounting grads is an all-time low. CPA takers is an all-time low. And, sometimes people don't even take it in the first couple of years. Like back when you and I were in accounting, It was like, we couldn't even make senior sometimes. Like if you weren't a CPA and now it's manager in public, or they leave and go to industry and it's just never emphasized.
Sure.
But it is starting to cap people's potential.
Wow.
Not all companies, but a lot of them, it's not that they need you to be a CPA, but it's just that mark of professionalism. And
that's true.
The older you get, the harder it is to get it done. So your resilient story is going to resonate with so many people in the audience.
I agree. And one of my superstars that I consider a superstar that I've worked with, I was able to see her on her CPA journey. So it's really nice to see someone start in your organization, on your team, and say, hey, I want to work towards my CPA, and for them to attain it. It's really beautiful to see.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that was a great way to end. You've been such a great guest. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Troy. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
So honored to be here today.
Yes, thank you. I'm Troy Ashby. See you next time as we continue to explore the people behind the numbers. I'm Troy Ashby. And remember, people are more than their titles and companies are more than their balance sheets. Follow Beyond the Ledger so you never miss an episode.